Darkest Dungeon 2 just got a big update. I don't like the gameplay loop for DD2. I liked Darkest Dungeon 1 a lot.
Before I take questions, I would like to...
I hate this lady. What's her name? Karoline Leavitt? Leavitt? Leavitt.
Now, before I take questions, I would like to address an extremely dishonest narrative that we've seen emerging over the past few days. Many outlets in this room have been fear-mongering the American people into believing there is a constitutional crisis taking place here at the White House. I've been hearing those words a lot lately. But in fact, the real constitutional crisis is taking place within our judicial branch, where district court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority. We believe these judges are acting as judicial activists rather than honest arbiters of the law. And they have issued at least 12 injunctions against this administration in the past 14 days, often without citing any...
She's 27 years old. Is that true? Jesus.
...evidence or grounds...
That just seems really young to be in this type of position.
...for their lawsuits. This is part of a larger concerted effort by Democrat activists and nothing in the past 14 days, often without citing any evidence or grounds for their lawsuits. This is part of a larger concern.
Often without citing evidence or grounds for their lawsuit. Like, that's just a fucking lie. That's a total lie. How do you win a TRO without citing any evidence at all? Now, the government, the defendants in these cases, aren't citing evidence. That's true. Because if you read at least that one TRO we read, the judge was literally like, they didn't submit fucking anything. They just said, oh, this is the one about when the judge issued the order saying, hey, you're breaking the TRO that we issued. Their response was literally just like, we're trying to find fraud. The states have presented evidence in this motion that the defendants, that's the government, Trump, in some cases have continued to improperly freeze federal funds and refuse to resume disbursement of appropriated federal funds. The defendants now plea that they're just trying to root out fraud. But the freezes in effect now were a result of the broad categorical order, not a specific finding of possible fraud. Like they're not even providing evidence for it.
Concerted effort by Democrat activists and nothing more than the continuation of the weaponization of justice against President Trump. Now, before I take questions, I would like to address an
I want to see a combo between you and Connor about Trump's current term. Are you guys still in speaking terms? We might be, I think so. But also, no, with Connor, I think I am. But I mean, like, I feel like he's never been like a Trump sycophant, right? So my guess is he probably thinks a lot of this is like crazy and stupid, I think.
That's an invitation that is given, and there are hundreds of outlets on this campus. Many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the president questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because...
Yeah, bro, that's like the #1 turnaround. Oh, there have been so many, but... someone in YouTube chat, Evolved Monkey says, remember when Republicans were saying we are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic? Bro, they 180'd so hard when they won the popular vote. I have never, well, I keep saying that, I've never in my life, but I guess every day with the Republicans I am, seeing such an insane, like, about face on that, where we're not a democracy, because it's like, oh, what about the Electoral College? We're not a democracy. What about the disproportionately balanced Senate? We're not a democracy. Isn't it kind of weird that the popular vote, we're not a democracy. And then all of a sudden Trump wins the popular vote. We have a democratic mandate from the people. We are a democracy. This is democracy. Democracy in action. We have a mandate from the people. Mandate. Democracy. Trump won the popular vote. Mandate from the democratic body of people. The democracy that we're in has given Trump a mandate to, and it's like, okay, wow. Okay, I guess that was a really big deal then, huh?
The reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. The Secretary of Interior has made that the official designation in the geographical identification name server, and Apple has recognized that, Google has recognized that, pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America, and it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world. Sure.
Jesus. It's going to be South America and North the United States of America soon. What else are we going to rename? Bro, kill me. So is it going back to the Gulf of Mexico with the next president? Can we really just change? I mean, like, I don't even know how that works. Is there like I was going to say universal. I guess it'd be an international body of naming things. Like, do you have to go to the UN to change that? I don't even know who's in charge of... I don't even know if we've worried about who's in charge of that.
Secretary of
Jesus.
Defense Pete Hegseth had some interesting things to say about Ukraine.
Namely, that full liberation from Russia is unrealistic.
But the headlines only get you so far. What he really said
Was that returning Ukraine to its pre-2024 borders, which include Crimea, was unrealistic.
taking back Crimea would require
Something very close to an amphibious invasion, which is really not something that Ukraine has the capability to do, or support troops down a very narrow corridor.
But what he did not say is that Ukraine should surrender or give up territory, or that the United States wasn't going to supply more weapons. And I think the clue here comes from this line.
That the U.S. would shift to deterring war with China.
And I've often said that supporting Ukraine is one of the best ways of deterring China from invading Taiwan. Because if we can't support a country that has a rail network connected with Europe, we sure as heck aren't going to support a country that's 6,100 miles away from everything.
I don't know what that would look like. Like, if China invades Taiwan, does the United States defend them? Or do we just say, well, we wanted to do chip manufacturing here anyway?
So I kind of wonder if this is kind of the Secretary of Defense's way of saying, like, hey, Europe, we're not going to stand in your way because every weapon that's sent to Ukraine is another way of deterring China. But you need to get your act together right now and start taking care of stuff in your own backyard, because we're going to have a bigger monster to deal with in a couple of years.
Oh, that's a very, 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 very generous reading of our current demeanor towards foreign policy. We're just backing away from Ukraine so that we can be prepared to defend Taiwan. Okay.
But reading the tea leaves here, what I don't see is the U.S. saying that, hey, we're going to stop sending expiring missiles or stop sending old equipment, because that really does benefit us.
The problem isn't even an invasion. With the USA going isolationist route, it's just a matter of time. China has enough soft power to take over Hong Kong style. Maybe. I don't know the differences between because Taiwan and Hong Kong have a different legal relationship, I believe, with China. I haven't read into the differences between that, so. What's happening? It's already insane. We're barely a month in. I just went to a doctor's appointment, and I'm so worried about my health care because it's already getting affected. These 4 years will suck so much. Who covers your health care? What does that mean? Like, are you talking about like Medicare or Medicaid stuff, or?
I don't know how to turn
Jesus. Who is Pipa or Pippa?
off G-Sync, even though I know my laptop has it. I tried turning off NVIDIA's dog shit ass fucking G-Sync thing, and it's just not
Jesus Christ.
not in the settings, which doesn't make any sense because I know for a fact that the laptop has G-Sync because it has a fucking sticker on it that says G-Sync. Oh.
In the case of a Taiwan invasion, China is very likely to strike the US first. Otherwise, they'd leave themselves completely open unless the Chinese were assured by the US they wouldn't intervene. Is China in a position to blow all of our stuff up without us knowing that they're mobilizing shit? That sounds not possible. I could be wrong though, but
Why is the setting not there? NVIDIA control panel, you're not going to help me find it because I already looked at all of the different guides that tell you exactly where to find it and the videos that show people bringing it up. So you can stop saying NVIDIA control panel because I promise you it's not there. Modern computers are fucking dog shit. Some laptops you can't disable it. That makes sense. Bro, do you guys remember when NVIDIA Broadcast came out and the previews for it was like, oh my god, it like eliminates background noise perfectly. This is so crazy. How does it do that? And then what should have been to nobody's surprise? It doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. It's not even like it kind of works. It straight up doesn't work. I don't know how they made it sound like that in the video.
okay, the way this person talks is driving me crazy. I don't know why every sentence has to be exactly spoken like this. Is this constant or?
I think they must have used like video it's literally god, I fucking hate NVIDIA. It's literally like when games use pre-rendered graphics for their videos. When like AAA studios are like, wow, look, it looks just like a movie. Look at this. And then you boot up the game and it looks like a normal game and you're like, well, I'm not mad that it looks like a normal game, but I am kind of annoyed that the thing that like it looked like in the trailer is obvious.
Okay. Who cares? Play Factorio. This motherfucker's still talking? About what?
On steel. The steel was just absolutely, it really started with Obama. The world really took advantage of us, and then that morphed into Biden. And what they did was he was so worried about trying to attack his political opponent that he didn't know what he was doing with respect to countries taking advantage. He should have looked
You mean like when you were literally trying to fabricate shit in Ukraine to attack your political opponent? But
at the countries, both friend and foe, taking advantage of us. So we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs, which is whatever they charge, we charge, very simply. But we're going to be...
Considering you talk about widespread fraud and abuse.
Oh, yeah, tremendous fraud. There's tremendous fraud. And it's hard to believe that you can have that kind of fraud. You're talking about like... Are you talking about what? Wait. Which are you talking? You're talking about with regard to all of the investigations that are going on about this stupidity. What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our Attorney General, there's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form. And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country. They're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items.
wait, is this true? I guess does this count as a personal attack? Somebody told me that she's 27. Somebody told me her husband is like 60 years old. Is that true? And they were introduced by Matt Gaetz? Inside, Karoline Leavitt's emotional proposal from husband, 32 years her senior. Leavitt married Nicholas Riccio, who was 32 years her senior, so 59. After getting engaged on Christmas Day in 2023, it's unclear whether they got officially married, but Leavitt has wife listed on Instagram bio. Jeez. How loaded is that guy? Not that loaded, but he manages a multi-million-dollar real estate business, Riccio Enterprises LLC. Needs to be multi-billion-dollar for it to be. Wait, my repair guy's here. Hold on, let me go check on him. 1 sec.
Went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them because there's a massive fraud that's taken place. And then you have judges that are activists, and they sit there and they say, oh, as an example, $59 million going to a little small group in New York City. You get nothing going to North Carolina to help nothing. They say, we don't have any money because they've given it away on the border. But you have nothing. What they did to North Carolina is a shame. And then they sent $59 million to New York City for a hotel for a little bit of what they've done. A hotel that was not luxury, that's getting luxury rates for migrants, where they're making a fortune. And we catch them. But a judge says,
good job. Do you think if you got like a tube that ran around like the corner of your ceiling, like where the ceiling and wall meets, that edge, like a big tube, do you think cats would like walk through those and like lay up there?
well, even though it may be a fraud, you have to send the money in anyway. Send the money. I said, wait a minute. We have money that shouldn't go because we caught it before it was sent out.
At Destiny, I know it's unlikely, but in the case that Trump manages to balance the budget, how do Democrats convince the public that deficit spending is actually good? It sounds like an uphill battle. I mean, people will see cuts to programs that they care about, and then I guess we go from there. But I don't know. I don't even know if he'll decrease the deficit. That's the thing. Because I don't even know if our future spending was taking into account an extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And if he extends that, it's even less revenue for the government. Like, he's fighting on all fronts. And if the size of the economy doesn't increase as much as we'd like it to, you've got interest payments that you're keeping up on as well. And all tariffs are going to do, maybe they won't contract the economy, but they're definitely going to hurt expansion if it doesn't cause a contraction. He's like fighting on all fronts in ways that are only going to increase the deficit. I don't see where any of the savings, or I don't know how he cuts the deficit like in a meaningful way. You're never going to find stuff from waste, fraud, and abuse. This is just a meme. I don't know how to, it's so frustrating because so much of this is like, you're either like an adult or a child. Like, no reasonable person thinks that you're going to dramatically save money looking for waste, fraud, and abuse unless you literally have a completely unaccountable program that's never checked for it ever. Like, you're just not saving that much. I'm sure you can find some, but it's not going to be even 1% of the budget or any of these programs unless he literally just starts axing entire programs like they did or trying to do with USAID, which is not legal, which judges are going to block anyway. And it's just like, I don't know.
But they want the money to go anyway. And I think you're going to have a lot of things to look at, Pam. I really do. What's going on with this whole thing? And this is just one group. We haven't talked about Department of Education. We haven't talked about the military. We haven't talked about a lot of things that are very big. And what's happened is, as an example, you'll have cases where you have a 3-month contract, and maybe the guy that signs the contract leaves. Maybe he gets rich. All of a sudden he leaves for that reason. But you have a 3-month contract, and maybe he leaves. So the contract is sitting there, and the people signing the checks don't know it's 3 months, and it goes on for years. The 3 months turns out to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Just goes on forever. And the guy on the other side of the contract just keeps getting check after check after check.
Like, these are just like talking points that they say over and over again. Why not give a name? Give an example of this if this is truly happening. I don't like how we got to find something different to do for the next few years. Like, it's just, these are just like obvious bullshit talking points. Like, this is like a friend that's in a friend group that you kind of like roll your eyes at, where the friend is like, yeah, like yesterday I hung out with a super famous celebrity and I can't tell you who it was, but like they are so famous, and then we banged and they bought me a new car, but then I had to give the car back so you can't see it, and I didn't take any picture. It's like, yeah, we get it, bro. You're just like, you're a pathological liar. You're just lying about everything. Like, I don't know how Trump can get away with this. I have a friend who said they're going to invest $500 billion in the U.S., and there's businesses that told me, like, who? Name them, dude. Give us some names. You're the fucking president. What do you mean? These are public affairs, aren't they? This is the government that's getting scammed, right? Why not tell us who's getting these checks? Tell us who the scammers are.
Because Elon had an expression yesterday, because nobody cares. It's a great expression. Nobody cares. The guy that signed the contract didn't care. Maybe there, may not be there. Maybe crooked. Who knows? But you have to care. Otherwise, you can't really run a thing like that, or you can't run a country, really, because there's so...
One of the big issues I see right now is that one side will believe everything Trump says with no evidence, and it is impossible to combat because when the left says there's no evidence, the people on the right simply don't care. It's literally like talking to a brick wall. Yeah, because they say, well, what about the tweets? And it's like, that information was already public, but then people just like kind of like nod through it, and it's okay. Like, this will come up a little bit in my peers episode if it goes live today or tomorrow, where I'm just like, this is illegal, and they're like, this is the process, and it's like, no, he's literally saying he's not going to follow the judge's orders. And like, we'll see. And it's like, no, he's already done this. There's already been an order issued saying he hasn't followed it. And it's like, this is what's supposed to happen. It's like, no, it's not.
Really run a thing like that, or you can't run a country, really, because there's so many transactions, thousands and thousands of transactions. And if you don't have people that care, you're going to lose control. And that's what's happened. And we've caught it. Now, what we caught is billions and billions of dollars, but it's a tiny fraction of the real number, because you can never catch the real number because people have gotten away with tremendous amounts of money. But I said we have to make our government smaller, more...
Who else was on Piers? It was just me and Andrew Wilson, and then like Piers kind of like moderating. I think they wanted some huge spicy debate on like atheism versus Christianity, but I don't think either of us bit much on that, so...
efficient, more effective, and a lot less expensive. And we could find $1 trillion, but we're being hindered by courts.
Really?
Where they file in certain courts where it's very hard to win, and a judge will stop us, and a judge will say that it doesn't make any difference what you find. You just keep paying the money. That's a hell of a way to be. And I follow the courts. I have to follow the law. All it means is that we appeal. But that gives people time to cover their tracks. And that's what they do. So it's a very bad thing that's taking place. But hopefully, if the courts, the courts will be fair. They don't have to be very fair. They just have to be a little bit fair, because this is so egregious what's taking place. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nobody's seen numbers like this. These are massive numbers. $9 million for somebody to go and stand in a store and see how people shop. Okay, I mean, you take a look at these things. It's a disgrace. And then you have a country that we want to make America great again. It's very hard to make America great again when you have things like this. And you're going to see the same thing. Department of Education is going to be a disaster.
Why does Trump have the lectern in his office? That is fucking stupid. Because you can't get the shopkeepers to, I think, restore their stash if they don't have the lectern there to go to.
The military, I mean, I see it. Look, I came in, they had a contract done, as you know, for $5.7 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force One with Boeing. 5.7, I got it down to $4 billion, a little less than that, 1 penny less than that. $3,999,999 and 99 cents. I said, has to have a 3 in front of it.
He's missing a 999 there, but okay. What is he even talking about right now? Hold on.
With $1 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force. I came in, they had a contract done, as you know, for $5.7 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force One with Boeing. 5.7, I got it down to $4 billion, a little less than that, 1 penny less than that. $3,999,999 and 99 cents. I said, has to have a 3 in front of it, because I wouldn't sign the contract for $5.7 billion. I was able to cut $1.7 billion off the price.
For what? Does anybody have a link to what he's even talking about? What is he?
Didn't take me long. $1.7 billion. If people would care, they'd be able to do that with every single contract that's put before them. And we wouldn't have deficits. We'd have nothing but a tremendously low-taxed, wonderful country. But they have to care. And speaking of that, Boeing, we're not happy with the service we're getting in terms of those planes. They would like to get more money. We're not happy about that whole thing. We signed a very strong contract. I signed a guaranteed maximum contract, which I haven't seen in a long time. And they're saying they're getting hurt by it. But they have to produce the product, and we expect them to produce the product. They have to produce the product. They agreed to build planes at a certain price. They're not used to that. They're used to having time and material contracts, where it's whatever it costs, time and material, no dates, no anything, and it ends up costing 5 times more. You look at some of the ships that have been built. Take a look at the Gerald Ford, the aircraft carrier, the Ford. It was supposed to cost $3 billion. It ends up costing like $18 billion. And they make, of course, all electric catapults, which don't work. And they have all magnetic elevators. They lift up 25 planes at a time, 20 planes at a time. And instead of using hydraulic, like on tractors that can handle anything from hurricanes to lightning to anything, they use magnets. It's a new.
U.S. Boeing complete $3.9 billion Air Force One deal. Boeing Company on Tuesday secured a $3.9 billion deal to build the new jets that will fly as Air Force One. With only one wrinkle yet to be resolved, their color. The award follows 18 months of an at times torturous to and fro between the aerospace giant and President Donald Trump, who had threatened to cancel the planned sale over concerns about the cost of replacing the aging 747 jumbo jets. The final price, detailed in a Pentagon press release, is what the president had initially criticized when he tweeted before taking office that costs were out of control. The Air Force, which is overseeing the program, so the price tag was agreed to and handshake deal reached with the White House earlier this year. Boeing declined to comment. The president in media interviews has discussed painting the planes red, white, and blue in contrast to the blue and white livery in place since the early 1960s. Mr. Trump repeated his preference in an interview on Tuesday. Boeing gave us a great deal, he said on CBS, but I said, I wonder if we should use the same baby blue colors, and we're not. Air Force One is going to be incredible. It's going to be the top of the line, the top in the world, and it's going to be red, white, and blue, which I think is appropriate. The White House and Secret Service changed the specifications for the new Air Force One fleet last year as part of the cost-cutting effort. Okay, so they changed some of the specs of what they're actually buying. Okay, whatever.
New theory, magnets are going to lift the planes up, and it doesn't work. And they had billions and billions of dollars of cost overruns. I met the architect. I said, have you designed a ship before? This is one of the biggest ships in the world. It's like landing at LaGuardia Airport. But you look at the kind of waste, fraud, and abuse that this country is going through, and we have to straighten it out. We have great people going into the military in terms of we need ships, we need a lot of things. We have great people, we have business people going in. But when you look at what's happened to our purchasing, and when you look at the USAID, when you look at the things that they're giving to them, the billions of dollars that they're giving to, and it doesn't make sense. It is interesting that when you're looking for fraud, you look at items, hundreds of items, and you'll find one or two, maybe, if you're lucky. Here's something where you look at data, and they're all fraudulent. You know, by just looking at the topic, they're all fraudulent, except it's the opposite. You'll find one or two that's like a legitimate reason. So I just want to thank Elon for going through it. I want to thank all the people that are working with him. You know, we have a big group of people. I think the lowest IQ is about 160. That's very high. I think you have a couple of 182s in there, but they're doing a fantastic job. He doesn't need it, and they don't need it. But we're showing things, and it's going to be it's a big. People have no idea how important it is. Yeah.
How soon do you want the Department of Education to be closed?
Oh, I'd like it to be closed immediately. Look, the Department of Education is a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world. We're ranked number 40th, but we're ranked number 1 in one department, cost per pupil. So
ranked number 40th in what? In college education, or just in is this including like K through 12 or whatever?
Spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, but we're ranked number 40. We've been between 38 and 40. The last time I looked, it was 38, and then I looked 2 days ago. It came out the new list. It came out at number 40, so we're ranked 40. Norway, Denmark, Sweden. I hate to say it, China, as big as it is, it's ranked in the top 5, and that's a
What can somebody link me what list he's talking about, or
primary competitor? We're ranked number 40. So if we're ranked number 40, that means something's really wrong, right? And I say send it back to Iowa, to Idaho, to Colorado. Send it back to places that, and there are a lot of Indiana. You have a great new governor. You have a great senator that Jim Banks just got elected. You got great people. I'll tell you what, Indiana is going to be fantastic. We probably have 35, maybe 37 states that will do as well as Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden. They'll be just as good. Then you have the ones that we all know about. It'll be the same story. But you know what? Even they will be good. Because you look at New York, you give it to Westchester County, you give it to Long Island, you give it to Nassau County, you give it to Suffolk County. Same thing, you go out to, and you give it to upstate New York. So you'd have 4 or 5 sections. You give it to Manhattan. Manhattan's a little bit tougher for some reason. I don't know why it would be tougher, but it is. You give to California, and you go to various areas outside of Los Angeles, and you might have 6 or 7 different subgroups. But generally, like if you go to Iowa, you give it to Iowa. You don't have subgroups, you have Iowa. And other places that do a good job. If they do a good job, they're going to do a great job in education. Those places will be every bit as good as the various countries that do so well. All the time, it's the same countries that are doing well. And so we have a Department of Education where people from Washington, D.C., who in many cases don't care about the kids out in the country. They don't care about the farms and the farmer's daughter and the farmer's sons. We have a massive bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. We have buildings that are all over the city. Department of Education. I never said Department of Education's on all these buildings. By the way, nobody shows up to work because they're all working at home. Quote, working at home. They're not working at home. And a lot of them have second jobs. And that's the other thing that Elon Musk is looking at. How many of these people are getting checks, working at home, but they're not working because they have second jobs and even third jobs? You're going to find a lot of them. And those people are going to be fired because we have to make our government smaller. All right, one more question. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead. Nice to see you.
Oh, thank you, sir. 2 questions, one on Ukraine again, and then another one on the Kennedy Center. Do you think that as far as your negotiating tactics go, did Pete Hegseth take away some of your negotiating abilities with Putin by taking Ukraine's sovereign integrity off the table by taking...
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Whoever this is, thank you. Please, I hope you're subscribed, listening. Yes, ask him this question. I thought you weren't supposed to say anything because it hurts your negotiating position. Somebody asked it. Good job.
Negotiating abilities with Putin by taking Ukraine's sovereign integrity off the table by taking...
No, I haven't done that. I'm backing Ukraine. I'm backing Ukraine. Don't say that. I'm approving, but I do want security for our money. Europe is getting security. You know that, right? They're giving their money in the form of a loan. Nobody knows that. And why are we at 350 billion and Europe, which doesn't separate with an ocean like we do, we have a little thing called an ocean in between. Why is it that Europe is paying 200 billion less than us to help Ukraine? Very similar size. If you add up all the European countries, it's a little bit smaller than the U.S. in terms of the economy. Why is it that they're not paying the kind of numbers that they should be paying? And then on top of it, and I've been saying this to Biden, I told Biden, I said, you ought to be asking for either a loan or some kind of a security, like their oil and gas or something for the money, because you're putting up much more money than Europe, and you have no security. Europe's putting up a much smaller amount, and it's in the form of a loan. Because we have people that were incompetent in the last administration, grossly incompetent, and we're changing it. But we change it, and all we do is we get hit by lawsuits from the radical left all the time. But here we are, we stand, and I guess we've...
The radical left. Trump wrong about U.S. rank in education spending and outcomes. As justification for dismantling the Federal Department of Education, President Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that U.S. schools are ranked 40 out of 40 in educational outcomes compared with other countries, while the U.S. ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. Neither claim is accurate. U.S. high school students performed above average in science and reading and a bit below average in math, according to the latest data compiled by the Intergovernmental Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is the OECD. And in other international assessments, elementary students in the U.S. scored above average in math, science, and reading. During the campaign, Trump made no secret of his desire to dismantle the Federal Department of Education. As president, Trump said that remains his goal. Where the fuck does he even get that number from? He's been making these claims, these same claims for years, as far back as when he was running for president in 2016. As he wrote in May of 2016, he was wrong in both counts, as he is now. His campaign at the time did not respond when we asked for a source for the claims, and neither did the White House press office when we made a similar request this week. When Trump mentions 40 peer countries, he appears to be talking about the 37 OECD countries that participate in the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, which the NCES conducts in coordination with the OECD every 3 years in reading, math, and science for 15-year-old students. The latest results from 2022. In no PISA category, however, does the U.S. rank last. Rather, the U.S. scored above average among OECD countries in reading and science, subjects in which the U.S. ranked 6th and 12th, respectively. The average U.S. score in math was lower, but not significantly, than the OECD average. The U.S. ranking in math was 28th. Trump was also wrong to say the U.S. spends more, or the most per pupil. The cost of higher education, college-level education, is very high in the U.S. U.S. expenditures for tertiary education, post-high school, including college, were the highest among OECD countries in 2021 at $36,274 per pupil. That was 77% higher than the OECD average. But a handful of other countries spend more than the U.S. on primary and secondary schooling. For example, while the total spending per pupil at the primary level elementary school in the U.S. was 28% higher than the OECD average, the U.S. ranked 6th behind Luxembourg, Norway, Iceland, Denmark, and Austria. Okay, nice. We just make shit up. Okay.
You've done okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Quickly, let's go. Come on, guys. Hey, guys, let's move. Come on. Let's go, guys.
What is this crazy lady saying? She's fully confirmed now, Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice Attorney General.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry we were a little bit late. I was in the West Wing swearing in Tulsi Gabbard, and so I just came straight back here. So thanks.
Oh my God, so fucking epic. Wait, hold on. He needs help. No worries.
For being patient with us with the delay. We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against...
For what?
Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today. As you know, we sued Illinois, and New York didn't listen. So now you're next. Millions of illegal aliens with violent records have flooded into our communities, bringing violence and deadly drugs with them. With me
We're
today,
suing the state of New York for illegal immigration? What? Okay.
today, I'm so proud to be joined by Tammy Nobles. Tammy is an angel mom. Her beautiful daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was murdered.
Holy shit. I've never even heard of this before. What a cringe cohort of people. Oh my God. Angel families is a term used to describe families of victims killed by illegal immigrants in the United States. Former President Donald Trump has invoked angel families to argue for his immigration policy, though some of the families have objected to the politicization of their loved ones' deaths.
By an MS-13 member in 2022. Kayla had just turned 20 years old, and she was raped and murdered by someone who should not have been in our country. Yet he was released, flown to Maryland, where he committed this violent murder. I just want you to hear from Tammy. Tammy represents not only herself and her family, but all of the great angel moms around this country who have suffered because of what the Biden administration did, and it is over.
Thank you for having me here today and being able to share Kayla's story. Her murderer was able to come across the border knowing that he was flagged as an MS-13 gang member.
Do the DOJ risk anything by losing these cases? Wouldn't it look really bad for Trump? No, Americans don't understand law, so it doesn't matter. It just sounds cool to be able to say you're suing them. And if you lose, nobody thinks about it. Like, remember, the Trump administration always has an infinity out on every single issue they do. If they sue them, and first of all, they sue them, that's just great that they're doing it at all. So they already get props for that. If they succeed, then they're gods. If they fail, well, it was because of a deep state activist judge. Like, there's no accountability. They can do anything, and there's never a wrong step when you have no accountability for anything, and you get credit for every single thing you do.
He had a criminal record in 2020 in El Salvador for illicit gang activity. He came over as an unoccupied alien child, saying that he was afraid of gang activity in his country. Health and Human Services called him a nice boy, and he showed age-appropriate behavior. That fell so wrong when he murdered my daughter. He ended up in Maryland, where he was able to rent a room in the same mobile home as her. We thought it was a legit company that were renting out these rooms, but it turned out that it was another illegal immigrant who owned these mobile homes. And he knew Walter from El Salvador. He knew him and allowed him to rent a room with my child. Kayla just turned 20 years old 3 days before she was murdered.
Wait, I'm so sorry. What?
Mobile home as her. Afraid of gang activity in his country. Health and Human Services called him a nice boy, and he showed age-appropriate behavior. That fell so wrong when he murdered my daughter. He ended up in Maryland, where he was able to rent a room in the same mobile home as her. We thought it was a legit company that were renting out these rooms, but it turned out that it was another illegal immigrant who owned these mobile homes. And he knew Walter from El Salvador. He knew him and allowed...
Does anybody have a link to the stories on this? I'm curious. Destiny, somewhat side question, but how do sanctuary cities exist? My understanding is that those cities refuse to cooperate with federal authorities when it comes to illegal aliens. It's not that they refuse to cooperate. They just don't share. They won't be proactively contacting the feds if they arrest somebody. They don't check like immigration status, which I mean, like you have a right to if you don't want to. I don't think a state has an obligation to check federal like alien status. And so like a sanctuary city explicitly says like if we arrest people, that's our business and we'll deal with that. And you know, whether they're an illegal immigrant or not, we don't check for it, or we don't refer them to the feds if they don't want to. I mean, these are states' rights. I thought conservatives like that stuff. No.
Told him to rent a room with my child. Kayla just turned 20 years old 3 days before she was murdered. Her murderer was only living there for 5 days before he viciously strangled her, raped her, and left her on the floor like trash and robbed her of $6.
$6? Who carries $6 on them? Kayla Hamilton's murder recorded on voicemail while her killer claims more victims. After more than 2 years, justice for the family of Kayla Hamilton. This is the person who was killed? Her killer on Wednesday pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to 70 years behind bars followed by 5 years of supervised probation. Hamilton's boyfriend found her brutally murdered inside an Aberdeen mobile home. The 20-year-old who was diagnosed with autism was raped, tied up, and strangled with a phone cord. Jesus. Prosecutors played the recording in court. A voice believed to be Martinez could be heard apologizing to Hamilton after he killed her. Turns out 5 days prior to the murder, Martinez rented a separate room inside the same mobile home Hamilton and her boyfriend were staying. He was a member of the notorious crime game MS-13. He was reportedly smuggled into the United States illegally back in March of 2022, just 4 months before Hamilton's death. Wait, how is this the state of New York? Wait, I don't understand. If he snuck in illegally and he was here illegally, did the state of New York know that he was here illegally, or... Since Hamilton's murder, her family filed a $100 million wrongful death lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Health and Human Services, accusing the agencies of committing operational negligence for allowing Martinez into the country. Okay. Tell her Destiny is a sociopath. Wait, what? Bro, the lack of empathy is kind of crazy. What lack of empathy? What do you... I don't think it's good that this woman got fucking murdered. What do you mean? What are you talking about? What? I just don't know how New York State is responsible for this, or what...
I've been sharing her story for over 2.5 years to bring change, because this should not have ever happened to Kayla, and it shouldn't be happening to other families being hurt by the border. Homeland Security did not do their jobs. They did not check his background.
You made a joke about the $6 that triggered him. Oh, I don't know. Just carrying $6 is kind of weird. I don't know. Damn, I'm sorry. It's not good. Murder is bad. Don't murder people, okay?
Homeland Security did not do their jobs. They did not check his background. You know, they did say that he was processed. So if they processed him, they knew that he was a gang member and still allowed him here. Health and Human Services did not verify the sponsor and allowed him to go with the sponsor that they don't even know if it was his cousin or his aunt. And he was able to leave the sponsor's house to go live wherever he wanted. And I am going to continue sharing Kayla's story to help save others and to bring awareness of what was happening under the Biden-Harris administration. And I'm so thankful for Pam having me here today. And I'm so thankful for the opportunities I got from Trump and any other platform, people who allowed me to share her story, because this is going to end. No other parent should suffer by having their child murdered by somebody that shouldn't be here. And I'm going to continue, sharing it, and for Kayla, and also for others. Thank you.
And it's my understanding that he also admitted to other murders, correct? Multiple murders.
He wrote a letter, and it was intercepted in jail, that he committed 4 murders and 2 rapes.
And that's who we were letting walk into our country. And that's why President Trump has directed this to stop. And if you don't comply with federal law, we will hold you accountable. We did it to Illinois. Strike 1. Strike 2 is New York. And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready. And the great men and women of law enforcement are standing behind.
Oh, so we don't care about states' rights now. Uh-oh. Testimony of Tammy Nobles about Kayla Hamilton. At the end of March of 2022, Walter Javier Martinez was apprehended by Border Patrol crossing illegally into the U.S. at the southwest border of Rio Grande City, Texas. Martinez stated that he was 16 years old and feared gang activity in his country of El Salvador. As an unaccompanied alien child, Martinez was granted access to the United States with no background checks or vetting. No background checks or vetting at all? Is that really how it works? I don't know about that, but okay. Homeland Security did not verify the sponsor and allowed Martinez to go live in Frederick, Maryland. So this sounds like is this like a catch and release thing? Like he claimed asylum, basically, is what it sounded like, right? There were behavior issues with him living with the sponsor. Ended up staying with his half-brother who lived in the same neighborhood, Mobile Park, as Kayla. There were behavioral issues with Walter, so the half-brother called the property manager / owner of the mobile home, which I thought was a legit company. We learned that an illegal immigrant couple owned the mobile homes and took it upon themselves to allow the 16-year-old to rent a room in the same mobile home as Kayla. Martinez was living there less than 5 days before he violently and brutally murdered my daughter. Walter Javier Martinez broke into Kayla's room while she was sleeping that morning. She left a voicemail on her boyfriend's phone. You can hear her struggle. Martinez can be heard on the voicemail, hushing her, and near the end saying, "I'm sorry." Why did he kill her? What the fuck? Is this guy like a sociopath? What does any of this have to do also with the state of New York, or even the state of Maryland? This seems like your issue would be with the feds at this point. No. Okay. Geez. All right.
Behind me today, we have FBI, DEA, ATF agents. They put their lives on the line every single day to protect us. And what New York has, they have green light laws, meaning they're giving a green light to any illegal alien in New York where law enforcement officers cannot check their identity if they pull them over. Law enforcement officers do not have access to their background. And if these great men and women pull over someone and don't have access to their background, they have no idea who they're dealing with. And it puts their lives on the line every single day. Violent criminals, gang members, drug traffickers, human smugglers will no longer terrorize the American people. And that is why we are here today. You will.
Yeah, but it sounds like this, unless I'm missing something, it sounds like this murder happened in Maryland and the person came in through Texas. What does this lady's story, however tragic, have to do with suing the state of New York? Did I miss some part of this story that happens in New York, or that had to do with New York, or?
You'll be held accountable if you do not follow federal law. It's over, it ends, and we're coming after you. Questions?
We have time for a few questions. David Spivey with Fox News.
Madam Attorney General, thank you and welcome to the Justice Department.
Thank you.
I have a quick on-topic and a quick off-topic
Sure.
question. On topic, in your executive order, or in your orders on the first day you were here, you talked about working with the Justice Department, or these sanctuary cities, as you say, will be punished. Today you're putting people on notice. Right now, we're just lawsuits. Is this going to go further? What kind of punishment are we talking about? Is there any grounds to charge individuals, charge politicians? How far is this going to go?
Well, we're going to see what they do next, David. We have sued them all. We've personally sued the governor, the attorney general, Letitia James, and Mark Schroeder with DMV because he has the green light laws. So what they have to do, they have to start complying with federal law. If they don't, we're going to appeal it, and we will win. They have to comply with federal law. Did you have a second question?
A second off-topic question in this regard to the judiciary. Today, Elon Musk, who has enormous influence in the Trump administration, posted on X, quote, "There needs to be an immediate wave of judicial impeachments, not just one." As the Attorney General of the United States, how do you respond to that? Should the process work out in the courts before we talk about judicial impeachments? I mean, these are just TROs now at this time. Shouldn't these just play out?
Yeah, I haven't seen Elon Musk tweet. He is a friend of mine. He is a great man. I think he's very frustrated with what's happening in our federal government. You know, at USAID alone, they're giving out billions of dollars.
Like I'm thinking more and more about this. I don't even know what any state could have done. Like, it sounds like the issue here was this sounds like a catch and release thing. The guy came in, he claimed asylum. He's an unaccompanied minor. So then they ship him off to some state. What the fuck is the state going to do? The feds are literally sending him somewhere. Is the state going to go, hey, this guy's an illegal immigrant? The feds are going to go, yeah, we know. We're just waiting to process him. Like, here you go. Like, what could the state have even done? Like, what? I'm so confused why this story is being used to prop up, like, this, whatever the fuck case it is. Like,
that should not be distributed. We're going to back him up. You know, we work our whole lives in this country, and we all pay taxes in this country. And for people to find out that $2 million is going to Guatemala for sex changes is outrageous. And we're going to back up Elon Musk every way we can. That includes lawsuits against these people who are doing that, and we will be successful.
You're concerned about judicial impeachments?
That's not going to happen now. We're going to look at everything. We're going to follow the law right now. We're going to follow the process. These are federal
right now, we'll follow the law.
Judges with lifetime appointments, but they will be struck down ultimately by the Supreme Court of the United States if the appellate courts don't follow the law as well.
Hi. Hi so much. I also have an on-topic and an off-topic.
Sure.
First of all, can you just briefly walk us through what the legal claims are you're making in this lawsuit?
Yeah. Absolutely. So the green light laws are that this is what the green light law says. It's a green light to illegal immigration, which says they can comply. That law is unconstitutional. They can't do that. And what they've done is
green light law, New York. At issue is a state law that prevents the DMV from sharing information with the federal immigration authorities since 2019. New York has had a so-called green light law that permits undocumented immigrants to get a driver's license. A key provision of the law, which was crucial to getting it passed at the time, is one that ensures the federal immigration agents don't have access to the data. Is there a federal law that demands that the federal government has access to state data? Like, I know, for instance, the federal government can't have unrestricted access to voter data. Like, I know that's the case. I wonder if she's going to actually cite, like, is there give me like a U.S. code for a law that's actually being violated.
Which says they can comply. That law is unconstitutional. They can't do that. And what they've done is they have a tip-off provision that requires New York's DMV commissioner to promptly inform any illegal alien when a federal immigration agency has requested their information. So think about the men and women in law enforcement behind me. That's basically, that's not, it's tipping off an illegal alien, and it's unconstitutional. And that's why we filed this lawsuit, and that's why we
Can somebody, is that true? New York tipping off illegal immigrants, green light laws. Okay. Are there like any like? Is there like a complaint filed yet that we can look at? I guess, yeah. Somebody mentioned in chat that whenever they say unconstitutional, usually that's like code speak for there is no law being broken. We just don't like it more often than not.
We charge Mark Schroeder too because he runs DMV. Oh, I'm sorry, you had a second question.
Yeah, my off-topic question. I wanted to ask about Mayor Eric
Yes.
Adams' case. As of at least a few moments ago, SDNY still has not dropped that case. Have you or other DOJ leadership spoken to the acting U.S. attorney in SDNY since the memo was sent earlier this week? And what will you do if she refuses
SDNY is the Southern District of New York. It's a federal court over in New York.
to drop the case?
I have not spoken to her. I know our acting DAG, Emil Bove, has spoken.
What's the purpose behind green lights? My guess is it's to make sure that people are driving in New York State, they have a legitimate driver's license. Probably keeps the driver safer there, and it probably makes New York City a bit of money and saves them money on not having to arrest people for driving without a license. And they just have it set up so that if you're undocumented, you can still get one without worrying about getting, I guess, like dinged for illegal immigration.
Spoken to her, and Chad Mizell may have spoken to her, but that case should be dropped. It was done at the
and probably for insurance too.
directive of Emil, so that case should be dropped. I did not know that it had not been dropped yet, but I will certainly look into that.
Reagan, Daily Caller.
Hi, thank you. Tom Homan suggested this week that someone from within the FBI may be leaking information about the ICE raids and that such could be putting officers' lives at risk. Has the DOJ gotten any closer to determining if these leaks are coming from within the FBI? And what will the consequences be if they can identify the leakers from the FBI?
Excuse me. Well, first, I can't talk about anything that is ongoing, and that is ongoing. And it's really for the similar reasons of what I said earlier. The great men and
Why wouldn't they want to ding for illegal immigration, though? Because then my guess is people probably would never go and get a license, and then they would just never get insurance. So you just have undocumented people getting into accidents, and then you'd have people with no insurance and no coverage for anything, I guess.
women in law enforcement standing behind me today, they must be protected. And anytime anyone leaks or tips off anything regarding a pending investigation, that jeopardizes lives.
Do individual non-border states usually deport illegal immigrants? Wouldn't that be a federal thing? I don't think a state can deport an illegal immigrant, but you can refer them to the feds for them to process them and deport them if they had to.
Telling a bad guy what's about to happen. It could jeopardize the lives of all the men and women in law enforcement. We will not stand for it. We will find you. We're going to investigate it, no matter what agency it came from. We don't know for certain. We have an open investigation, so I can't talk about it in detail, but we will do everything in our power to hold you accountable, and it is a crime, and you will be prosecuted when we find you.
I got time for one more. Alana Austin, Newsmax.
Hi, Madam Attorney General. Thank you so much for your time. I was also interested in hearing specifically what the interactions have been like with Mayor Adams, and I know he has a little bit of a different tone than some of the other Democrats out of the Empire State, and then also Denver Mayor Mike Johnson, because before the President Trump went back into office, he had issued some words about a potential standoff and then walked that back. So I was curious to see what things have been like out of New York City and Denver officials.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that in New York, Mayor Adams is going to cooperate with us with the sanctuary cities and the illegal aliens.
The guy that you just dropped all charges against, I'm sure he'll cooperate. Don't worry.
And has the mayor in Colorado been cooperating? Do we know? I believe he might have now. Yeah, I believe Colorado is now cooperating. That's what we want. We don't want to sue you. We don't want to prosecute people. We want people to comply with the law. This is very simple. An MS-13 member murdered her daughter. That's happening throughout this country. We have one angel mom is too many. And we have angel moms throughout this country who should not be going through this. Comply with the law. This is the last thing we want to be doing. We want to be out there, all of us, fighting violent crime. Yet we're fighting illegal aliens, and that ends, and it's going to end today.
That's all we have time for, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. House budget draft unveiled ahead of Thursday markup. The blueprint allows for at least $4.5 trillion in tax cuts while slashing spending by at least $1.5 trillion over 10 years. These don't match. The House Budget Committee unveiled a fiscal blueprint for Republicans' sweeping domestic policy legislation Wednesday that would allow for at least $4.5 trillion in tax cuts while slashing spending by at least $1.5 trillion over the coming decade. Would provide for as much as $300 billion in new border and defense spending, and would allow Republicans to raise the debt limit by $4 trillion, enough for about a 2-year extension. Why do we have to raise the debt limit? Democrats should just fight and make them... If Republicans had unanimous support throughout their entire party, they'd be able to do this, right? So Democrats should just hold out and never, ever, ever help this. They don't need like a supermajority or anything for any of this shit, right? Democrats are gearing up to shut down. Good. Fuck them. They should. The reconciliation instructions embedded in the draft blueprint call on the House Energy and Commerce Committee to cut at least $880 billion in spending over 10 years or in this budget, meaning lawmakers would likely need to enact deep cuts into Medicaid, going beyond the work requirements that most Republicans support. Jesus Christ. I gotta drink 1 sec.